How we doing today, Gacha Gang? Kawaii50 here with another FGO video, here to talk about a hotly anticipated alter ego servant, Sitonai. We're going to be going into her stats, her abilities, the best craft essences, and command codes to equip on her, as well as her best teammates, to see how good this incarnation of Ilya is. And remember, she does become permanent after the Oni Land event. You just gotta beat Lost Belt 2 first. Let's get started. Let's of course kick this off with Sitonai's stats. Her max HP, pretty decent at 13,965, but her attack is what really makes her a great shining star. 11,668 at max level. It doesn't really scale that much once you start grailing her, but man, is it a pretty great amount of attack for an alter ego type servant. Her NP per hit is great at a 0.83%, and the fact that she has 2 arts cards as well as an arts noble phantasm means she is gonna be able to get that noble phantasm up fast, and there are a lot of instances of her being able to loop her noble phantasm as well with the right setups. So already things are looking pretty promising for this alter ego. Star absorption, of course, is decent, just like maybe your General Saber or something like that, so expect her to get a pretty decent amount of crit stars, even if you're playing her along with a caster type support. Sitonai has a big toolbox of class skills, but the two most notable ones are Territory Creation A and Core of the Goddess rank B. Territory Creation, of course, increasing her arts card effectiveness, helping with her overall main source of damage, as well as her NP gain. And Core of the Goddess just granting a nice flat 225 bonus to damage. This is going to really help on quests where your enemies have an absurd amount of defense. So she ends up becoming a pretty good pick for some challenge quests as a result. Sitonai's first skill is Snow Fairy rank EX. This applies invincibility to her for 1 turn, as well as gives all allies a 300 to 500 damage cut 3 times over the course of 3 turns. The damage cut is honestly just a bonus. The main reason you're going to be using this skill is because it is Sitonai's primary source of survival. But, gang, a 6-turn cooldown is okay. 1 turn of invincibility, also okay. This pretty much fulfills the bare minimum of a defensive skill that we want for a character, and it's not nearly as high priority as her other 2 skills. So go ahead and max this skill last. Sitonai's second skill is Emotional Freezing rank B. This increases her arts card effectiveness for 3 turns by 20 to 30%, and also gives her 1 instance of debuff immunity. Now, that arts bonus is pretty great, and on top of that, this skill, when maxed out, has a measly 5-turn cooldown, so you'll be able to use it routinely. Considering this skill helps augment the most important parts of Sitonai's kit, namely her damage and her NP gain, we're going to want to go ahead and max this before anything else. And Sitonai's final skill is Kamui Yukar rank A. This has a chance to increase her attack by 20% for 3 turns. That is a 60 to 80% chance. And that chance applies to her star region as well. She gets a chance to gain 10 critical stars every single turn. The main reason you'll probably be using this skill is to increase her own NP gauge, and that has a 20 to 30% bonus. Now, the chance-based activation can, of course, be augmented in a couple of different ways, which I'm going to talk about, but the main reason you're going to use this is to increase her NP gauge and find ways to make up for a margin of error when looping her Noble Phantasm. So go ahead and max this second. Sitonai's Noble Phantasm, which of course I'm going to absolutely butcher in the pronunciation, is Oputashike Okimunpe rank EX. This deals 900 to 1500% damage to a single enemy, and also decreases the charge of a dragon trait enemy by 1. Now remember, this isn't just dragons, some servants even have the dragon trait as well, and of course you can use St. George to give your enemy the dragon trait, so consider that. I won't mention him in the allies just for that reason. And on overcharge, this decreases the defense of your enemy by 20 to 40%, as well as decreases their critical rate by 20 to 40%. Crit chance reduction is a fairly underrated debuff on enemies, and is actually very, very powerful in challenge quests. So again, you can see Sitonai's potential for challenge quests. And with this being an arts type Noble Phantasm, yeah, you can use this with her arts cards to get a massive amount of NP refund, especially if her second skill is up. All in all, a really, really good Noble Phantasm. When it comes to picking allies for your Sitonai, there's two things you're really going to want to look out for. And that is art support as well as buff rate support in order to help out her third skill and make that far more consistent. For art support, we of course want your general art supporters. Artoria Pendragon Caster is a great pick, as is Tamamo no Mai and the criminally underrated Lanling Wang. You can of course also use your general supporters like Gilgamesh Caster, Caster of Midrash, as well as Helena Blavatsky. Any of those characters are going to be just fine. Anyone that gives arts effectiveness to an ally works very well with Sitonai. And when it comes to buff rate support, we've actually got a decent amount of characters that end up working with her really well. Again, the criminally underrated Lanling Wang makes an appearance. Lanling Wang, of course, being able to grant buff support with one of his skills. If you're looking for a saber-type ally, you can, of course, pair her with Lakshmi Bai, who does the same. And, of course, if you have really good luck, you can pair her with the magnificent pharaoh, Ozymandias, though just be ready for him to eat all of those critical stars. And if you're looking to build a Prisma Ilya team, there are actually two allies that end up working very, very well with Sitonai, these allies being Miyu Edelfelt and Chloe von Einsburn. Chloe, of course, able to give a buff rate up bonus to all of your Ilya allies, and Miyu is just able to do that for anyone, and she's also able to provide art support, critical strength support, as well as NP gauge to Sitonai. So Miyu can honestly be a very underrated supporter for this polar bear riding champion. When it comes to craft essences, I would like to focus for Sitonai on arts performance, NP damage, as well as even potentially crit star gather rate, because crit star gather rate is going to make her arts cards generate even more of that Noble Phantasm, which in turn will give her even more opportunities to loop. When we're looking for arts and NP damage, my two recommendations are Callade Sapphire as well as Emerald Float. Emerald Float is just basically a more powerful version of Callade Sapphire. Arts effectiveness and NP strength, you cannot go wrong with that on Sitonai. And when it comes to arts effectiveness as well as critical star gather rate, I definitely want to mention Leisure Stroll. Leisure Stroll grants a 400% C-Star Gather Rate bonus, as well as Arts Card Effectiveness plus 10%, 15%, and 600% Arts Card and C-Star Gather Rate if you manage to max limit break this craft essence. All in all, it's pretty powerful, and I definitely recommend it. I don't see enough people running this, in all honesty. And finally, let's go ahead and mention our recommended command codes. Now, if you're feeling a little different and you want to play Sitonai a little differently, you can sort of turn her into a pseudo-dragon slayer much like Siegfried. And for that, I recommend actually the command code that features Siegfried, the demonic Twilight Dragon. This is going to increase damage against dragon enemies by 20% of the engraved card. Overall, a pretty good damage bonus if you're looking to specialize Sitonai. If you're looking for command codes that can funnel critical stars to Sitonai's arts cards, which I definitely recommend if you're looking to Noble Phantasm loop with her, I've got to recommend codes like Armament of Triumph, as well as the freebie code Focus you can get from the Friend Point Gacha. Both of these will send those stars right where they need to be and help Sitonai to deal extra damage and gain extra Noble Phantasm. And finally, of course, to increase your overall Noble Phantasm damage, we've always got to recommend Da Vinci Chan, just one of the absolute best command codes in the entire game, and Sitonai will absolutely thank you for including it in her deck. Overall, my friends, I've got to be honest, even though I have no intention of rolling for her because I'm saving up for Shi Huangdi, Sitonai is absolutely incredible, and if you're thinking about rolling for her, she is absolutely worth it. I would honestly call her the arts type Melt. She's very, very good at dealing that single target damage, she has tons of potential to loop her Noble Phantasm, and her stats in general are just good enough that you can make her work in pretty much any style of team. And if you focus on that general buff success rate to make her overall more consistent, you have a very powerful servant on your hands. But of course, I want to know what you all think of Sitonai, so go ahead and let me know your thoughts about her down in the comments below. Let me know what teams you're planning to run for her. Let me know what craft essences or command codes you might equip her with that I might not have mentioned, so we can help the community out as a whole. And gang, let me know how badly you want Shiro the Polar Bear added to the Friend Point Gacha, because I think it would be a fantastic idea. This is Kawaii50, hoping you all have a phenomenal day, and I'll see y'all in my next video.